It was more than 10 years ago, when my beloved was taken to the army. I must say that by that time we were both over 18 years old. He was working. At work, the top management changed, somewhere in Moscow, and in all cities and towns announced, without a military ID that no one was without. It wasn't a problem to serve. Just then, after the reform, they switched to 1.5 years instead of 2. By that time, we had been dating for more than a year. Well, as met, 200 kilometers to the village, where both of us have parents, and about 150 kilometers between our cities, where we work and study. But how many incomprehensible and impossible coincidences happened during this time, which connected us despite the distance and class discord. It is even hard to count, but I will write about this sometime later. I should mention here that I am far from being a Buddhist or a fatalist. I did not believe in fate at that time at all, and thought that it was all nonsense. My mom was a Komsomolka. My dad was a third-generation intellectual from St. Petersburg, and I had no chance to grow up as an atheist. So, House 2, Sergei Lazarev, and Cosmopolitan magazine are not for me. I let my beloved go with a light heart. A man is an adult, athletic, with a military profession, and if for 1.5 years apart, so it must be, nothing promised him, and he me. So he left at the beginning of winter. A month later, a letter came, such, if anyone knows, military mail, without stamps. It says everything is fine, everything is good. The commander has the phones in the safe. As soon as the combi's over, they promise to return them. 5 lines, but the letters are gigantic and slipping. I'm sitting in our rented apartment in the evening, doing my homework. I have, now, 2 higher education degrees, so in those days I had to do homework. A lot, long and often. I'm sitting alone on the bed. My neighbor's parents are away, in the corner of the computer mumbling music for background. In my head formulas, one-on-one crawl. My faculty is not at all philosophical, but the very real, fundamental, technical, and then, like a stream of cold air, I raise my head. The corner where the computer was standing is gone. The air around it shakes and twitches. The image snakes, as if you bump your eye hard against something. Inside this snaking oval, it's like another room. I see a white, curved headboard, the edge of a coarse blanket, blue-white linen, some kind of tubes, and in the distance, a high window without curtains, and behind it, the night is cold, and it was as if even a vile hospital odor came from there. And I also feel pain and sadness. Loneliness presses on me. Tears come out of my eyes, and anxiety for him. It's like I'm saying goodbye forever. I gathered all my strength and all the heat in my body and began to call him mentally, asking him to stay with me. I couldn't do it without you. Time froze. Although, probably, the whole incident fit between 2 breaths. The oval collapsed. The flicker merged into a line and disappeared. First, the sound from the computer came back. Then the angle was the same as it had always been. A normal angle, a chair with a folding seat. I'm sitting dead and alive. What do I do? Yell? Cry? Where do I call? I can't get a hold of him. No one will believe you if you tell anyone. I looked at my watch, and the numbers stuck in my memory. A week later, he sent me a 2-phrase letter. Everything's fine. I love you. The letters were crooked, as if written by touch. And 2 weeks later, he called. Everything's fine, he said. Communication is a nightmare. You can't feel or understand anything by voice. Then, after some time, he admitted that he had lost 17 kilograms in the first 2 weeks. Winter, north. Freezing. We've never seen such winters here. Appendicitis. He walked. Endured to the last. I endured to the point that the commander, almost in his arms, dragged me into his personal jeep and flew to the hospital at night with a flasher. And then, in the hospital, he did not wake up from anesthesia from the first time. The doctors thought it was an emergency in the unit. As he told me, it was just such a black cloud around, and the stars, prickly, icy. And then his voice clearly called him, warm, similar to mine, and he went, and he woke up. The doctors wrote down the time he woke up, he said. I asked him quietly, and it was right down to the minutes. I've never told anyone this story before. Who would I tell that story to? And we never discussed it with him again. We don't need to. How come such coincidences in the life of a hereditary atheist with a higher technical education